Hello, Gareth here, and this really messy looking table is my painting table, and what I'm going to show you is the materials you need to begin painting, the minimum materials. So first there's the brush. So here we go. Maybe I should pick this up. So it's a Hake brush and it's 1 inch wide, so that's about 2.5 centimeters. So there's the brush. Okay, I put it in this watercolor tray because if it drips, then over time it's gonna, well, I've got a cover, but it's just not good. So I put it like this in this tray, which is very convenient, but you can use a plate. Okay, next is my paint. These are all the paints I use, but for this lesson, this is what I'm recommending. Phthalo Blue red shade. So I buy mine in Japan, yeah, 15 milliliters. So there you go. I recommend tube paints, and this brand is Holbein. So we've done the brush, now the paint, just one brush, one tube of paint, and now onto the paper. So paper is a really big subject that I'll talk about in another lesson, but especially for beginners, I don't recommend using good quality watercolor paper such as Arches or Saunders and Waterford. This is the one I use called Watson, but this is in Japan. It's 239 grams and it is actually acid free. I hope you can see that. It's sparkling a bit. It's a bit shiny, the writing. So I would recommend a mixed media pad that is spiral bound, not a block, spiral bound, and acid free and fairly cheap. But if you don't like it, then try another pad. But please don't buy the most expensive paper when you begin, because I think it will be very stressful for you. So that's the paper. Okay, next. So I did say, I hope this is a spiral bound pad. You can see the spiral, right? Next, palette. So you can use a plate, but what I really recommend is a big, cheap plastic palette. They're really cheap. I mean, about $1 or $2, maybe $3 from, is it Dick Blick? I'll be telling you later. It's an online art store. And first of all, we're only using one color. So anyway, here's my palette. So what do you want with a palette? You want it to be big, like this is. You want it to have not hundreds of places to put your paint, but just a few. There's not too many in this palette, and they're deep wells. As you can see, they're pretty deep, and you have a few mixing areas, not just one. I like a few mixing areas, and that's what I recommend you do. And as you can see, you've got these mixing areas and they're quite deep. So I would recommend this kind of palette, and it's very cheap. Okay, after palette, water container. Don't get a small cute water container, get a bucket. So this bucket is actually a child's bucket. It's one of those sand, playing on the sand, children's bucket and spade sets. So I actually stole this from my daughter and I keep promising to return it, but she doesn't miss it, so it's okay. But there you go, a cheap plastic bucket. I recommend a bucket because soon your water will get dirty, and changing your water all the time becomes quite a hassle. So get a bucket. But I don't get a really big one because it's not so easy to keep washing your brush in it. So you want it not too high. Okay, next after water container is rag. I don't really want to show you this, but here we go. This is my rag. It's filthy. So that used to be a towel, and it got old, and I cut it up, and then when they get too dirty I throw them away and use a new one, and I should use a new one soon. So I put it on top of this metal palette because it gets really wet, and so I don't want it dripping on this board and then things become like mildewy or whatever. So I stick it on the metal for that reason, but you can just stick it on an old plate. So there you go. There's my rag, and you can use anything: old sheets, old clothes, old towels, cut them up and then use them. They'll soon get really filthy and you'll have to throw them away. So next is tissue. You really do need tissue. It's so useful, so that's why I'm mentioning it. And then the next thing is a pencil. So I'm just showing you an ordinary pencil. There you go. So that will do for now. Don't worry, we're not doing a lot of drawing at all, but it is useful just to have a pencil there. And next is table cover. So just something that's waterproof. So here's my table cover here. I have no idea what this is. It's some silver reflective thing, but it seems waterproof, so I use that. I strongly recommend you do that because I painted on the kitchen table for about a year, and I've made a mark in it which my wife is not too happy about. So please use a table cover. It really helps. So something waterproof or seems waterproof. Then the next thing is this spray bottle. Yeah, so this one I don't particularly like. I prefer the smaller ones. This one is a bit more difficult to use. You don't actually really need it, but it's so much fun, and that's really what this whole thing is hopefully about, having some fun, that I just had to include it. So there you go, spray bottle. You really will enjoy it and you'll be using it all the time. It is actually very useful, but it's a lot of fun too. And the final thing is metal clips. Here you go. So we need these because we're using a spiral bound pad, yeah? So when you open it up, oh dear, what have I painted here? Oh yeah, this is my latest thing. But here you'll want to clip this down, so you'll need 2 metal clips. So you might be asking, why do I recommend spiral bound and not like the normal pads that are glued down? I just find the ones that are glued down, the pads that are glued down, whatever they're called, blocks, I think they're called blocks, I just find they buckle tremendously, and that becomes really difficult to paint on once you've done your first wash. So just from my experience of quite a few years, I would say, you know, don't have that horrible experience that I've had with blocks. Get these spiral bound ones. But if you've got another story to tell or some advice, then let me know. I'm always open to learning, but that's just what I've found. So I would recommend getting these spiral bound pads and these metal clips. Okay, there you are. I've done the materials list. So that was meant to be really simple, but it took quite a while and it seems quite a lot of materials, but that's what you need to begin. And this is the boring part, but once you've got this, you're ready to go. And there are a lot of things we can paint with just these few materials. And you're also set up for painting much better pictures in the future, colourful paintings and things like that, which you can just begin by adding things bit by bit, little by little. Bye for now. Bye.